Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have two of my favorite clients on the podcast, Penny from Anchin and Mike from Eisner. Great to have you both on the podcast here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here, John.
I would love to have you both just introduce yourselves and talk about your roles at your respective firms, and then we can get into the journey with HubSync and how the partnership started with both of your firms. But maybe Penny, I'll start with you.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Penny Bustamante. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Anchin. We're headquartered in New York City. We have a couple offices in Florida as well. I've been at the firm for about 5 years. And during that time, there's been massive transformation on the technology side, the human side, and just in the industry in general, which has been really, really exciting.
Well, we've been excited to be a part of that and working with your firm. It's been a phenomenal partnership, which we'll talk about in a minute. Mike, love for you to introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, John. Great to be here. I'm Mike Laveman. I'm the managing partner of Eisner's tax practice. I've been here a long time, John. I've been here 28 years of my 31 years in the industry. When I started, we were using dot matrix printers and 5 1/4-inch floppy disks, if you remember those days. And
I do actually know those days, sadly.
we've come a long way. And like I said, I've been at the firm a long time. I manage the tax practice of the firm, which has close to 1,800 people. So big practice.
I'm really thankful to have you on the podcast as well. Let's start with the buying process, if you will, or the decision to move with HubSync. And we get a lot of questions, frankly, from firms around approvals and getting in front of investment committees and, investment business cases and return on investment. Mike, maybe I'll start with you because you may not know this, but your buying process is a little infamous because you came on our website in February, and yes, we do track who comes on the website. And, I got a call from one of my sales executives like, hey, Mike Laveman from EisnerAmper is on and he's the head of tax. And so we knew there might be some interest, and we made contact with you. And the process was intense, but it was fairly fast from February to May. So we had a really intense period. We counted in HubSpot, I think, 46 meetings that we had with you and the team between contact on the website to the actual purchase. So it was a pretty intense period, but it was also a fairly fast process, especially given the size of your firm. So I'd love to just talk about, what drove you to take a look at us and the approval process that we went through together to really kind of justify the investment in the HubSync platform.
Yeah, it's a great story, John. I think it was in February of 2024. We had just started busy season. We had just come through a period of getting engagement letters done, mostly Word documents. We used some technology, mail merge and things like that, but it was a very tedious process. We had merged in over 20 firms over the previous 4 years. So each firm having a different process was very, very difficult for us. I just so happened to be checking my emails, I think at night, and in between 50 emails of expenses to improve, there was a HubSync email. And I clicked on it and I said, wow, perfect timing. And, within a day or two, I had a conversation with someone on your sales team. And then a week later, there was more people involved on both sides. And really, really quickly, we got engaged. The pain point for us was engagement letters. And I think we got this up and running in a matter of months, and very successful first season. Over 30,000 engagement letters done through the HubSync platform in year one. And now moving on to the other pieces of HubSync in this coming year. So it was a great story, and timing is everything sometimes.
I think it was interesting that when we went through, when you made the decision to license the entire platform, you guys had done a lot of requirements work and looking at building things in SharePoint. And I remember you had this Excel file with like 50 tabs and like requirements for file sharing and everything else. And we had to go through and fill it out. But it was pretty amazing. One of your IT guys, he said it was almost like HubSync was in our heads because we were just checking off like all the features and requirements that you guys had thought about. And that it was great to see the marriage and the alignment around what you needed and what we had built for your firm.
Yeah, it was great. Originally we were looking at engagement letter solutions, but then we quickly realized at the same time we needed to upgrade our client portal. Yep. And then we started reviewing all of our processes of getting tax returns through our system. And, if there was a tool out there that did everything, I was not aware of it. And HubSync, I stumbled upon it. And like I said, we made the decision to go all in. Year one was very successful. We're in year two right now, and we're really excited about what this year is going to hold for us.
we'll talk a little bit more about adoption and success. But Penny, I wanted to move over to you. We did it a little longer, as I recall, and had a lot of different meetings. And actually, I think you actually switched roles during the process from one role to COO of the firm. And we also met with David Emmer, your CIO, and we kept the meeting. And I think, my sense was you kept seeing every time you would meet with us, you kept seeing the platform evolve with more functionality and more features. So talk a little bit about your thought process for choosing HubSync and then walking through the approval process internally at your firm.
Yeah. So I was chief of tax operations at the time, I think during the first time that we met. And now, as I said, I'm COO. And at the time, and we were really evaluating as a firm the client experience. We had disparate tools for engagement letters, work paper, uploading, gathering signatures for things like e-file forms, and even how we were delivering our tax returns. And so in speaking with the HubSync team, we quickly learned that, there was a way to recreate this experience for our clients. Our clients were bouncing between systems, and even internally, our teams were tracking work across all these different systems, Outlook, SureSign, portals, etc. And that we had a lot of inconsistency. We had a lot of rework, and there was also a lot of risk. We're chasing e-file forms, up till midnight on filing deadline days. So we built a business case around 3 different criteria: client experience impact, internal efficiency, and standardization. And I think as a mid-sized firm committed to staying independent, we needed to be really disciplined as well. If we're going to invest, it has to move the needle for both our clients and our people significantly. And HubSync gave us that platform. And then when I moved into COO, obviously HubSync goes beyond tax, right? So we're also using it on our audit side right now as well.
I think that's the thing we keep hearing. And I think when we first brought the platform to market, it was a lot around the internal efficiency. And I remember sitting and watching a staff person with 5 different windows doing a tax return. I'm like, oh my gosh, and it seemed normal to the staff person. Like this was his reality. So I think there's the 2 legs is how do you make the firm professional experience better through automation, reduction in tech stack, and hopefully giving that firm professional a single pane of glass and more integrations and automations. But as you said, what we've been hearing more and more is the client experience is broken. The client shouldn't have to be navigating across multiple systems. And I think even inside of tax, we're often seeing multiple systems being used. But then, Penny, you've made this leap to try to harmonize with audit as well. So I'd love maybe, Mike, to talk to you about, your thoughts on client experience and the goal. I know we've talked about Gateway, the goal for your clients to have a more harmonized experience and to kind of have that single pane of glass. I know that that's something we've talked about and is important to your strategic vision for the tax practice at Eisner.
Yeah, it's very important. As I mentioned, we've added a lot of geography, a lot of offices with different processes. So the similar pain points that Penny talked about, we had as well. On the client portal side, we were very focused on being able to have one shop stop for all the information that we want to give to our clients, whether it's tax returns, bills, information about the firm, webinars to listen to. We could all put that on the client portal gateway. So we're very excited about that. One of the things that comes up a lot, both on when you're in the sales process and just meeting clients when you get to the end of the year, they're asking about technology and they want to see what technology you're using. Nearly every proposal we're involved in, with size, we do a demo of our technology and they want to see the client portal. They want to see how we get engaged. So this has been really a game changer for us in that. And like I said, we're just getting started with the tool. The other piece, and we'll probably get into this, the PDC list, which we could talk about at some point, I think our folks are really excited internally for, and we demoed this to many of our clients last couple of months. They're very excited about that feature as well.
I think that was my experience, Penny and Mike, in the Big Four. We were really focused on standardized work papers and internal processes and efficiency first. But then we started getting into proposals and the clients were like, I want to see your technology. And it got to a point like you weren't getting invited to large proposals unless you had a technology story around whatever, high-end partnership or expatriate taxation or whatever the proposal might be. So it sounds like that's becoming more important. Your clients want to understand the digital experience with your firm, and and that's something that, they're evaluating you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Benny.
No, good.
So the question on build versus buy, came up quite a bit in our shop. We have a fully built out ETI team, and we have a AI leader and AI team, but we felt like this was a tool that was built out, and let's use our internal resources for areas that don't have a solution off the shelf. So that's something when we started this process, we spent weeks and months debating the build versus buy question. And I think we made the right decision.
I think so too. I mean, it's one we hear, quite a bit. I mean, with some firms, not as much, but there are some firms that lean more towards build. My messaging is don't build plumbing, right? We have a lot of this plumbing that's been built, the workflow, the automations, the organizers, the data collects. What we're hearing more is with AI and other things, like how do we build around a platform like HubSync and accentuate and enhance with AI and other capabilities to differentiate with your clients and internally. But I was a big proponent. One of the reasons why I left the Big Four was I didn't feel like building software inside CPA firms was a winning strategy. And, I think we're convincing folks that, we're a software development company. This is what we do every single day. And CPA firms are waking up, figuring out how to service their clients. So, we think lining up a HubSync platform with firms like yourselves is really the right answer. But Penny, I think you were going to comment a little bit on the client experience a bit more and how important that is as you go to market.
Yeah. I mean, the client expectations are moving toward easy, consistent, and self-service, right? That's really where it's headed. And HubSync really lets us deliver that. Clients are able to go to one place for file sharing, signatures, return delivery, status of what they're working on, even to communicate with us through do the messages feature. And it's just really great to have that one centralized experience. Internally, it helps harmonize us as well. I was listening, as I listening to you guys discuss that last point, on our side, audit and tax are now more harmonized because both teams are working from that same workspace. So tax can see when audit is far enough along. They can see the request lists that are out there and what's been turned in. They can add things to the request list that they need for the tax side. And there's less friction around that document gathering, which has been really nice. On retention and acquisition, it's really strengthening our value proposition when we go out into the field, that we have that, as you had said, John, that technology story of how we're differentiating ourselves in the marketplace. And one other piece of it is, what we really also enjoy about HubSync is we are able to customize it to our needs. And that was so important. So we were able to really craft very healthy processes and put them in place working alongside our team at HubSync. Some of the softwares I've had experience with in the past, you have to change your processes to match the software. It wasn't that way, which has been really nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one point that you make, I wanted to call it out, is just the one thing we still hear, and it's the same story in the Big Four, is audit's different and tax. Like, you've really, Penny, made the decision to harmonize the audit and tax experience. Talk to me about that conversation between your tax leadership team and your audit leadership team to get them aligned, because often we hear, well, they're different. And my point of view is it's not that different. We should be collecting data a similar way, and an audit client shouldn't be experiencing a different portal than a tax, but it's still an issue. It was an issue in the Big Four, and we see this divergence at times around what the audit practice wants and the tax practice wants, but love to understand how you were able to harmonize that and get both sides of the firm on board.
That wasn't actually too difficult of a conversation because we could pull data. And what I mean by that is we could see when our audit teams were done with their work and how delayed the tax work was in starting. And that made a really powerful story to bring to the partners of both sides and say, look, if we could connect better and make the teams feel super cohesive, then we can start the tax work earlier. The clients are happier. And even beyond that, we also dug into the types of work papers that we were chasing at the end and how easy it would be to get that as part of the beginning part, as part of like the audit team and their PBC list, and how important it was to kind of gather that information back then. It also tied in from the client service perspective, we were having different conversations. We weren't having siloed conversations on the audit and then siloed conversations on tax. Now it's blended. And so we can have those like more holistic conversations with the client. So being able to share that and build that story with the partners really helped us with change management for the firm. It helped everyone sort of buy in and feel more connected, by the way, especially in a world where we're a blended hybrid work environment. Just even helping the tax and the attest teams work closer together it's really been a nice feature, a nice sort of unintended consequence of the software, which is nice.
I'm glad we were able to help facilitate that, and we're continuing to make progress. The other topic that comes up quite a bit, and we're talking about the purchase process and getting approvals. Mike, maybe I'll ask you this one, is just the justification on ROI, and how do you go back to your leadership team a year from now and say, we've saved money? And, it was always tough in the Big Four. We knew we were saving money, but oftentimes, the head of tax at one of the Big Four firms is like, John, but my team members are just charging less hours. You're saving me money and time, but we're not value billing to the client. But talk to me a little bit about the conversations you have in the boardrooms around return on investment and making sure everybody's happy with the return that you're getting when you're making whether it's HubSync or any other kind of technology investments, Mike, you're making in your tax practice.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending so much time today with our vendors, not only HubSync, but some of the main vendors that we work with Thomson and Walters of the world, and looking at tax research tools and tax preparation tools, and K1 scanning and K1 reading is a hot topic in the market today. So, we're having conversations every single week with our vendors. We had to put together a pretty comprehensive plan in prioritization. And I felt like HubSync was a platform that we needed first before we started delving into too many other areas. And it was actually the sales process, from my perspective, to our board, was pretty straightforward. We needed something consistent that we can use across our practice. I talked about risk management. I talked about consistency. I talked about flexibility, the client experience, and the employee experience. And it only took me a handful of meetings, so it was a pretty good process. And of course, the team at HubSync was very helpful in us having some of those conversations with the people I need to have those conversations with. But yeah, every single year, we go through a cycle where we're looking at all of our tech tools and just seeing what's out there with our vendors. And you keep hearing about new AI tools that are coming to the market in a variety of areas. I know you're going to be implementing more AI within HubSync in the coming years, and that's really exciting. So, I'm very curious to see what you look like 3 to 5 years down the road.
We'll get to that. There's some questions about AI and where you think the market is going, and what is a CPA firm going to look like in the next 3 years. One other area, Mike, you mentioned, and Penny, you touched upon this as well, is, engagement letters is a pain point we just keep hearing about. It's been, one of our most popular modules. We continue to get just tons of feature requests on this. We're seeing more and more firms really harmonize across audit, tax, and other divisions to get to a common engagement letter. We've even had we've been historically a tax first type of platform, but we have 2 audit only clients on the engagement letter side. So we're certainly seeing this need around standardization, automation for engagement letters. And Mike, you're not unique in when we hear Word and mail merge and ad hoc processes being used. So in the past, it's like we're moving from, really antiquated technology, a lot of tracking and management, some risk. Penny, you've mentioned risk that, letters might be going out with outdated language. So maybe Penny, I'll start with you. Talk about that importance of the start of the engagement and the engagement letter and getting that consistency across your firm. I know Mark, your legal counsel's been really involved in templates and approvals, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to touch, since you're both using engagement letters so broadly across your firm, touch upon the importance of that and the value that this module has driven for both your firms.
Yeah, we use engagement letter modules for tax, attest, family office, and CAS right now. And we're always expanding it. And I think, there's so many benefits to it. So in the past, we just kind of had a hodgepodge system where we had tons of templates kind of spread out wherever. It was difficult to update them, difficult to make sure that we had all the updated language we needed in the each year's new letter, tracking them. all of our administrative assistants had like Excel lists for their partners of where they were tracking all of the engagement letters. And there was just a lot of risk around it. It was, it was even a challenge to be sure once we got the letters back, they were going into our document management system. There was a lot of checking and double checking. We were hiring temps to like help us with it. And now HubSync's eliminated all of that. All of the engagement letters, we launched that first. It's a big module. We launched that first, and we forced everyone to use it. We said that's the only way we can get engagement letters out. So and they used it, and everybody used it that we was able to in the firm for all of the different areas that we launched it with, and it was so much easier, even for our client experience. A lot of times, the engagement letters, the first experience they have with your firm, and we wanted that to be tech enabled and really clean. We didn't want to spend time chasing clients for signatures and dumping things into their out inbox, which is already like so full of spam. It's hard for clients to even track it all. So this really helped us. It really provided a central location for us to easily see which ones are out there, which ones are not signed yet, which ones we're waiting, came back. And then we have it automated so that when it comes back, it automatically goes into our document management system. So it just really eliminates all of that administrative tracking. It's been just a wonderful upgrade. We've had, just anecdotally, we seek a lot of feedback on HubSync. And anecdotally, the partners, they tell me they can't even imagine doing an engagement letter without HubSync, that they've saved at least 50% of the time, doing them overall. So we were able to streamline processes and have the administrative assistants handle all of them. I just think it's been really powerful for us. Mm-hmm.
I think it's been great. We just recently had a executive checkpoint with the CEO, and we had the dashboard up showing the engagement letters. And my COO, Paul, who you both know, he said, "Well, how do you think we're doing this year versus last year?" And his response was, "I didn't know how I was doing last year." So he said, "This is like, I've never seen something like this." So, I mean, that's, Mike, I don't know.
Yeah, we really struggled trying to understand, who was in good shape, who was in bad shape with the engagement letters. The other aspect is, I think, having some standardization. I was always very worried about people changing engagement letters ad hoc, removing sentences, paragraphs. We were able to eliminate some of that. The system allows you to be very flexible. If you want to have things that can't be changed, you can lock it in. And if you want things that can be changed, you can allow people to change it. So there's a lot of flexibility in the system, but we found it made us much more consistent. The other thing that we like with the system, it's very flexible in the sense that many of our partners and managers are very hands-on. They want to do letters themselves, and others don't want to touch them. They want their admin folks to do it. And it provides a lot of flexibility that way. And it's worked out well for everybody.
That's great.
Can I mention one more thing on that?
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was realizing there was something else that was important to us. So prior to HubSync, each of our templates every year, our general counsel, Mark, who you mentioned earlier, would go in and have to manually update all of these individual standalone letters and make sure the wording was updated appropriately. But now in HubSync, because of the way we're setting them up, he's updating like blocks of text that in one place that are now pulling into the different letters. So it's much cleaner, less risk, much faster for him to do the updates than it was in the past. So that's been really important for us too.
That's great. That's the goal of the tool, is to make it easier to manage templates and get engagement letters out and track them for the firm professional, for the people that are in charge of managing the templates across the firm. So tremendous feedback. And I'm glad there's been so much success at both of your firms. The one thing, we can touch upon this with engagement letter, but probably a broader topic. We had one of our larger clients that actually adopted everything else, and engagement letter was last. And I was talking to the head of operations over there, and he said, there's some, we get into training and adoption and change management. He said, there's some pushback. He said, because last year they were taking a Word document and copying and pasting it and sending it. So now they're going through a wizard process, and they're like, well, there's more steps than what I had before. But I mean, with any technology change, whether it's engagement letter or any of the other modules, what we typically, when someone like both of your firms makes the decision to move with HubSync, the next question becomes technical implementation, like, how quickly can we stand it up? And Mike, I think we had the most detailed implementation plan of all time with Eisner that everybody signed off on, with milestones and everything else. So there's the technical implementation that needs to go well, and integrating HubSync with ERP and CRM systems, et cetera. But I think that the next big piece is adoption and making sure that people are using the tool internally. And there's always, resistance to change, and there's lots of other technology changes that could be happening in the firms. We're hearing, changes in ERP, or some firms are changing tax return software, and a lot of the firm professionals are like, it's too much, So talk to me about how you've managed the buy-in, the change management, and some of the training, because in the Big Four, at times we built the best technology and just decided to throw it over the wall, and people didn't use it. And we're like, why aren't people using this? And what we found is you've got to make sure there's communication and training and change management and buy-in happening inside the firm. So maybe Penny, I'll start with you first in terms of challenges with respect to training and change management, and how you've addressed those to get people on board.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's so many different areas of change that are going on when you look at everybody's, all the different firms. For us, it has to start with a story. Why are we making the change? Are we doing it for obviously our clients and our people, and we want, that experience to be different? Why it's important? We definitely treat adoption of any of the software that we bring in as, a change initiative, and not just here we're doing this to you, and this is a training event for you now to have to go and do these new processes mandatory. We really try to make everyone in the firm feel part of the change, that we're partnering with them to build the firm of the future, which I think is a really important message. We use pretty structured change management approaches on the back end. And we're a little more organic in terms of like setting up milestones, which, and other than, instead of having like very, very strict guidelines, we're mid-size, we're about 600 people. So we have a little more flexibility in making it a little more organic, but we communicate early and often. We repeat and reinforce messages constantly. There's when you study change management, they say people have to hear it 7 times for it to stick. So, every different methodology we could use between newsletters and every meeting we could get in front of people would talk about it. And we talk about the benefits, right? We talk about why it's important to have the change, how it's going to help free them up to have more time with their clients, or for partners to also have more time training their teams and mentoring their teams. And so we just really try to put a very positive spin on it and get tons of feedback and listen to the feedback and show them that we're making changes based on their feedback. We always have business stakeholder groups that are key implementation specialists for us from each of the industries that we have, to help us really push through that change. So it's been, and the other piece I'll just mention is it has to be consistent language. So you have a story, and you gotta stick to that story so people understand, and they can understand it, and they can identify with it. So that's what we
That's great. Mike, aligned to that, part of the messaging we hear is, the folks coming out of college don't want to be doing hand punching and data wrangling. Is there this message that you're trying to deliver as leader, that we're trying to upskill you so you're not doing hand punching and the stuff you and I did back in the day, or Penny did?
Yeah.
Really trying to get them to be that consultative advisor to the client.
Yeah, absolutely. More time with clients, less time on the admin side. The timing was perfect for us. We actually had just done a major ERP implementation in July of 23. So we had a lot of changes going on in the firm, and the savior to us the past year was the engagement letter wizard. And when we checked in with our folks, we do a lot of internal polling. We get a lot of feedback from our employees and our clients. Everyone was very relieved we had a solution to at least alleviate one of the administrative burdens you have. Of course, you have resource management you deal with, and all sorts of other things. So this was a big win for our people. And just recently, we're doing a lot of training on PBC lists. Similar to what Penny said, we have a lot of stakeholders involved. We have a COO in tax who, John, Candace very well, who's involved in implementation of this product. We put, for each of the modules, we put a partner and a manager and some seniors involved in all the different modules to help think through how we're going to implement it. So there was a large involvement across all our offices. Wasn't 2 or 3 people making decisions in terms of how we're going to roll this out. We have a very robust intranet where we have all of our materials on HubSync. We have a whole HubSync section I'll show you someday, John.
Yeah, I want to see that.
And I'm sure you'll love it. But we pre-recorded videos, training, FAQs. So one thing we've learned is we actually have, I think it's now 8 or 9 pages of FAQs. So these are questions that either our employees have asked of us or clients have asked of us, and we just keep building on the FAQ section. So the rollout, I think, has gone well, and the adoption has gone well. And I think anytime you could alleviate the quote, the administrative burden on a employee, it's fantastic.
That's a good segue in terms of AI. And you mentioned it earlier, Mike, what the firm is going to look like in the future in the next 3 years. I mean, we're obviously investing a lot in AI. One thing we'll be adding is the ability to do like a conversational search on those FAQs. So you can ask a question and get responses back from knowledge bases and things. We're going to be really excited about that. We may call it Ask Tiffany, maybe the AI.
I love it.
Tiffany AI. But let's talk about AI a little bit. I mean, some people are a little nervous about it. Is this going to replace my job? I don't look at it that way. I look at it as exactly what we're talking about. This is going to allow tax professional, audit professional to be that, consultative advisor in some of the mundane work and administrative tasks that they've had to do. AI is going to take care of it. As you're talking about AI, I'll start with you, Mike, inside your firms, what's the discussion like, excitement, opportunity, concern from your professionals? Love to get your perspective.
Yeah. Well, we have hired a chief AI officer in the past year and a half, and he's built the team, and they've done a really good job rolling out various items. We do a lot of training on things such as Copilot, and all of our people are required to take training in some areas like that. We've already built several solutions. One example is we have a tool that can actually, we call it Otter. You ask Otter a question, and it looks like a little seal. Find me someone in the Southeast who knows how to handle restaurants on the tax side, and it will spit out names of people you can contact. So we've been rolling out AI-based tools over the past year or two. There's going to be a lot more. I think you got to pick and choose your spots. Some of the things that we're heavily looking at right now, I think I may have mentioned it, K1s is a hot topic in the tax industry, and lots of tools are out there are focused on, not just scanning K1s, the first page, but all the K1 footnotes. And
footnotes, right?
That's something that is a firm like us, which is very heavily based in the financial services sector, about 30% of our work. We need strong tools to be able to read those K1s. And we're looking at outside vendors on that. We've looked at some stuff internally as well. That's kind of the classic build versus buy conversation. But our folks coming out of school, even the senior people are really excited in using AI. I would say at least 75% of our partners are using AI on a daily basis now, which is, I think, quite impressive. I think people realize you have to have competence in this area because it's coming. It's here.
It's here.
This is not going away.
Right. You need to figure out how to use it and make your life, your professional life better in terms of your job and everything else. So it's great to hear you guys are embracing it and getting value out of it. Penny, what are your thoughts on what's happening at Anchin with respect to AI now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just like every other firm, it's a huge topic. I think we have a similar approach in terms of launching things like MS Copilot and offering training on AI and technology to all of our different levels. We're definitely starting to use things like MS Copilot regularly, all of us, to do things like draft emails, create schedules, combine notes, all those things that just would take a lot of time in the past. I agree that I don't think AI will completely replace the role of a CPA. There'll always be sort of a human in the loop to not only validate the information, but also to pull away the insight at a higher level and a more consultative approach, which is going to be really important. I think to me, that seems like it would be more exciting for the newest generations coming into the workforce to think that they don't have to use a calculator anymore. AI will go in and get, maybe do a draft of a return completely from beginning to end. And their role is to review it and to manage the exceptions, right? So training that and then training our managers and our teams to sort of be able to manage bots or technology, output reports is really important. I think also the other piece of it when I think about technology and automation and AI is really continuing to automate end-to-end processes. So when engagement letter goes out, it comes back, it automatically goes into our document management system, signed after it's signed by the client. That's already there. But the next step is to then create the workflow, which that we already have, move it to the right person at the right step. Like, so really try to automate the things right now that are pretty manual so people can focus on the higher level, more interesting, more critical thinking activities.
And that's our goal with HubSync. We had a workshop for 2 days last week, and literally we were having these exact conversations around sign engagement. We're automating the whole process, not someone having to go to a workflow engine and say, I did this, HubSync. And the thing I'm so excited about with the platform is we own the entire landscape from engagement letter prep all the way through delivery of the return and all the automation opportunities. So historically, someone having to manually move things or tasks or workflow states, like, it's all going away. So we're really excited again to automate all this for both of you, your firms, and continue this great partnership that we've had. So, I really appreciate both of you coming on and sharing your insights. Sarah, I think's been up in New York, hanging around you guys the last couple of days.
Right.
I'm actually coming up tomorrow, Mike. I meant to tell you, I'm going to be in New York City tomorrow. So I'll see if maybe I can grab you for lunch or something. But you guys have been phenomenal clients, great partners. We've learned so much from you. You've given us such great insight in our platforms, and your professionals have been phenomenal. So we're excited about a great 26 together as partners. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we're excited too.
Great. Very excited, John.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.